Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another discussion video. So while I'm working on some other videos for this week, I thought I'd just put out this quicker one about some news I haven't gotten around to covering yet, but still find kinda interesting. And it's that, someone who used to work on The Sims is now working on an entirely new life simulation game. This article comes from Polygon. I'll leave a link to it in the video description below. So, the Sims-like boom is real, and even an ex-XCOM dev is going all in. Former Firaxis and Maxis veterans are making a new life sim. The Sims is about to get even more competition. A new studio co-founded by Jake Solomon, the veteran game designer behind XCOM and Marvel's Midnight Suns, will challenge Maxis' enduring and dominant life simulation game series with a new, still untitled game that focuses on the drama of modern life. Joining Solomon at his new game company Midsummer Studios are co-founder Will Miller, also formerly of Firaxis, and ex-The Sims producer director Grant Rodiek, aka SimGuru Grant. Rodiek was previously game director on Project Renee, Maxis' in-development follow-up to The Sims 4. At least a half dozen other former Firaxis game developers who worked on the XCOM games and Marvel's Midnight Suns are also now at Midsummer Studios. The best stories in games are written by the players, Solomon said in a news release. At Midsummer, we're making a life sim focused on the drama of modern life, where our players will write meaningful stories just by playing and then share those stories with the world. Solomon left Firaxis in 2023 after more than 2 decades at the studio. Shortly after his departure, he expressed his interest in making a life simulation game. Midsummer's game is entering an increasingly crowded field that has been mostly dominated by Electronic Arts' The Sims franchise. Promising competitors include Life by You, an upcoming life sim from Paradox Interactive that's being helmed by Rod Humble, including Second Life and The Sims 3 as his previous experience, which actually, now that I mention it, it very recently got announced that it is being delayed again. And, they haven't actually given a new date this time, so yeah, definitely some trouble with that game, it looks like. Paralives, the highly customizable indie dollhouse life sim, and Palia, a cozy life sim with Stardew Valley vibes that's currently in beta. EA and Maxis' Project Renee, aka The Sims 5, does not have a release window, as developers behind the game say they plan to show off their progress and factor in community input for several years. The Sims 4 launched in 2014 and went free to play in 2022, reaching more than 70 million players over the past decade. And there's no title release window or platforms for this new life sim. So unfortunately, not many concrete details at this point in time, but interesting that Grant Rodiek is working on this, because back in late January, I talked about how he announced his departure from Maxis and EA on his LinkedIn page, and he did express in that statement that he has a continued interest in working in game development. But I thought maybe he'd try out a different genre of games, and, no, he's just left one life sim for another, which makes me wonder even more, just how dissatisfied was he with Project Renee's direction? And depending on whether you agree with his views or not on how life sims should be made, it could be a good thing or a bad thing. Without a doubt, he was one of the most controversial sim gurus that we've had. Even though he was one of the more responsive ones, he was often coming off quite sassy, and he didn't really seem to focus that much on family gameplay, which so many simmers love, and is a big reason why Sims 2 is so beloved to this day. So I wonder how much better of a project this upcoming life sim is for him. From the sounds of it, it is going to go in a much more storytelling direction rather than building, because like say with Paralives, they just started with building and they showed off then a lot of that at first and built the other aspects of the game later. But maybe this could be interesting, especially if it did focus a lot more on machinima making, like basically making your own short films or even like full-length movies using the game. Like there could be more movie making tools. I mean, one of the more popular mods for The Sims in general, not just The Sims 4, is the pose player, where you can easily just have your Sims pose in various ways, and you download all these different poses and animations from various creators. So I think that could be very interesting to see a life sim officially support that without having to use mods, especially if this game also made its way onto consoles. I think it'd also be really fun if there was some kind of way to tie it into day-to-day gameplay. Like, for example, with Get Famous, I know many of us wanted it so that when our Sims are in the active acting career and go to that movie set, that there would be a chance of the finished movie or TV show to air on the TV, and we could actually see our Sims there doing their thing. And maybe it could have been either sort of like a surprise premiere, kind of like that Holiday with Seasons, or it could be an entirely new channel where you could just see all of those, or like movies and TV shows that your Sims have participated in. And that could be just an interesting way of affecting the world. Maybe even other Sims could talk about that new thing that your Sim has participated in. And since it sounds like this new life sim will also have an emphasis on user-generated content, sharing stories with the world, then maybe you could film your own things in the game and you could share it with other players so they could have that airing on their TVs in-game. I think that could be an interesting way of approaching user-generated content in a life sim that's not just what you would expect, like, oh, sharing a sim, or sharing a house, or a color scheme of a chair. So that's just my speculation on how they could approach doing this life sim that has an emphasis on modern drama and writing your own stories just by playing the game. So I think it could be just their way of carving into this niche where it's not just a straight up Sims clone, but it could offer something really fresh and different that doesn't replace The Sims in any way. It could just be a really interesting movie-making tool at the same time. It definitely has been interesting over the past few years seeing the promise of all these life sim competitors coming up, like Paralives and Life by You and Inzoi, and now this Midsummer Studios game. And I really hope these all turn out to be good in the end, because as of course we especially know with The Sims, like, they can promise whatever they feel like, but whether they actually deliver on those with a good amount of quality is an entirely different story. But I am pretty interested in seeing how this new life sim is going to turn out. It sounds like it's still in very early days. They might not even have that many of the details nailed down yet, so I think it's going to be quite a while before we hear anything else. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't even hear anything until next year. Feel free to let me know your thoughts on what this upcoming life sim game could be in the comment section below, and be sure to subscribe if you'd like to keep up with my latest gaming content. I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!